Oh, thank you all so much. And I'm really delighted to be here. And I'll be talking about these topics. And both the topics, health disparities and clinical practices, are vast in themselves. And with disparities really gaining a much more warranted interest the past few years, especially given our DEI movement. We're also understanding that the environment's social determinants of health are inseparable from clinical practices. So bear with me as I guide you on a whirlwind, superficial tour of these notions. So here's where the rubber meets the road. The WHO defines the social determinants of health as conditions in where people are born, grow, live, work, and age, and are shaped by money, power, and resources. And I'd like to add politics and legal system. So using Bruce, the culture of the time in Massachusetts was pretty liberal. It was influenced by the Kennedys. And in the mid-1970s, when he left, they moved a lot of people out of this institution. He got a job at a natural foods restaurant, starting with the usual janitorial work, but he moved up in the area. And the owner had been a conscientious objector who did his service at a state institution. Bruce has worked for him for 35 plus years and still works for him. At the restaurant, he also developed a taste for nutritionally great food, and he's got a sweet and engaging personality. And by his nature and the social climate of the city where we reside, he really responds to social activities. His personality was such, and I see this all the time, there's a genuine reciprocity with relationships. Here's another example about the social determinants of health. In the 1980s, we had this major lawsuit regarding the use of antipsychotic medication, which really modified our medical practices at the institution and in the community. So I won't linger on this, but I purposely included this graphic because of the overwhelming concern amongst everybody regarding dementia. And we know age is the biggest risk factor, and so I'm talking about aging people with intellectual disabilities. And we already know about other groups of people like people with Down syndrome. The point here is to look at risk factors and think about the people that you support and where and how during the lifespan you can partner with and intervene and make a difference. The Lancet article where this is taken for focus said that things may be prevented, but more importantly, you can mitigate the onset and course of dementia. So I'm just going to chat a few other things. And for a number of reasons, we all recommend a baseline of function, which includes skills, behaviors, personality, mood, and the usual memory for people with intellectual disabilities, say ideally at age 35, 40, when they're at their personal best. You know, with staff turnover and death in families, et cetera, we often lose people who really know the person. And as I'm a nurse practitioner, and I've often assessed older people, and it's really beneficial to have this to accurately assess change in an individual with ID and to prevent diagnostic overshadowing, which is commonplace in our population. Also, for system navigation and management, partnering with case management and working across the aisles, as the speakers have already talked about, whether it's aging or hospitals, because transitions are fraught with difficulties. We're all older people. And these proactive relationships really enable you to do a lot, like developing a protocols. For instance, I joined my hospital ethics committee, and at the senior center, I would be bringing Bruce with me to hang out at the coffee shop when I was volunteering, and there was a lot of lively banter mutually among everybody. Getting involved with those age-friendly, dementia-friendly movement in your community, I'm always bringing people into the discussion and planning. And those of us who work in the field of intellectual disabilities really have a lot of information and skills regarding accessibility, which the general community may lack, particularly in practical implementation. And lastly, clinical and communities and best and civic practices are optimally served by partnerships. So together, we can all address these social factors and environments, internal and external, and add to well-being and be as age-friendly to all as much as possible. And I want to thank everybody, and you do more than you probably realize for the quality of people's lives. So thank you for all you do, and I'll leave you with be kind to others, but be kind to yourselves. Again, thanks for inviting me.